Hi everybody, I hope you're all doing really well. So today I am back to talk about my most anticipated releases for the months of July to September 2023. I always like to do one of these videos every quarter just to look at the next 3 months and just give you a little bit of an idea of the books that I'm really looking forward to coming out. I always like to do this in roughly publication order, so without much further ado, let's just get into these books because there are a lot of them, as there always are. Quite a few books coming out on the 6th of July this year. The first of those being from one of BookTube's very own, and this is Goddesses and Heroines Meet More Than 80 Legendary Women from Around the World by Jean Meunier, otherwise known as Jean over at Bookish Thoughts. This is published by DK. It is a children's illustrated mythology. She has also previously done Greek myths and Egyptian myths. Delve into a world of key female figures from all over the world in this thrilling compendium of goddesses and heroines. With more than 30 stories about goddesses and powerful women, this is a must-have introduction for young readers interested in female figures from different cultures. The kind of thing that I would have loved to have had growing up. Next up, also coming out on the 6th of July, is a book from an author that I have read already. This time it is A Lady's Guide to Scandal by Sophie Irwin. Last year I read what I think is her debut, A Lady's Guide to Fortune Hunting, and really enjoyed this. This is kind of like a Regency historical romance, and we all know by now that I love a bit of that. Recently widowed from her marriage of convenience, Eliza, now Countess of Somerset, is bequeathed a fortune, hers to keep as long as she can steer clear of scandal. It should be simple. Eliza has spent a lifetime following the rules, but now that she is rich, titled and independent, misbehaviour is much more tempting. Next up, another romance book written by an author that I've already read before. From the author of The X-Talk comes A Business or Pleasure by Rachel Lynn Solomon, which compared to The X-Talk, the plot for this sounds a lot more steamy than The X-Talk was. Chandler Cohen lies for a living. When she accepts her next ghostwriting gig penning a memoir for cult actor Finnegan Walsh, it should be a dream job. However, Chandler knows him best as something else, her worst ever one-night stand. She's determined to keep things professional, but when she finally admits to Finn that their night together wasn't as mind-blowing as he thought, he's mortified and determined to make amends. I bet he is. So they strike a deal. During the day they'll work on the book, and at night she'll school him in the art of satisfaction. As they grow closer, the line between business and pleasure starts to blur. Can Chandler and Finn have both, or will they have to choose? Coming out on the 27th of July is Disobedient by E.C. Fremantle. Rome, 1611. A jewel-bright place of change with sumptuous new palaces and lavish wealth on display. A city where women are seen but not heard. Artemisia Gentileschi dreams of becoming a great artist. Motherless, she grows up among a family of painters, men and boys. She knows she is more talented than her brothers, but she cannot choose her own future. She wants to experience the world, but she belongs to her father and will belong to her husband. As Artemisia patiently goes from lesson to lesson, perfecting her craft, she also paints in private, recreating the women who inspire her away from her father's eyes, until a mysterious tutor enters her life. I definitely know the name of Artemisia Gentileschi. I'm sorry, I don't know how to pronounce it. But I actually don't know very much about her life, so this will be very interesting. I'm getting kind of similar vibes to The Marriage Portrait by Maggie O'Farrell, which was one that I did enjoy. So we will see. Coming out on the 3rd of August, once again, a romance book where I've read from the author before. This is Tastes Like Shakkar by Nisha Sharma. Nisha Sharma, who wrote Dating Dr. Dill, which I really enjoyed last year. And in this series, she is kind of retelling Shakespeare plays, but in the modern day and becoming romances. Last time it was Taming of the Shrew, and this time it is Much Ado About Nothing, which is my favourite comedy. Bobby Core is determined to plan a celebration to remember for her best friend's wedding, but she has 2 problems that are getting in her way. Number 1, the egotistical and irritatingly sexy chef Benjamin Buntypada is supposed to be helping her with the menu since he's the groom's best friend, and 2, someone is trying to sabotage the wedding. With aspirations of taking over her family's event planning business, Bobby knows that one misstep in managing the Karina Maan and Prem Varma, they're coming back, party, along with the other weddings on her plate, will only give her uncle another reason to not promote her. That means Karina's big day and Bobby's future career are on the line. Bunty will do anything for his best friend, even though he has his hands full in finding a new location for his next restaurant, while also playing mediator between his brother and father, the celebrated non-king. When Prem asks Bunty to help with the wedding menu, he agrees, especially since it puts him in close proximity to the delicious Bobby Core. So yeah, lots of things coming together with this one. We've got previous characters returning from Dating Dr. Dill. We've got the combination of Much Ado About Nothing in with a modern day romance. I'm very sold on this. Next up, coming out on the 24th of August, is another sequel, and it is The House of Odysseus by Claire North. I have recently, in May, read Ithaca, which was her first book in this series, looking at the people that Odysseus left behind on Ithaca during the Trojan War and also during his travels when he wasn't able to get home. This, I imagine, is going to be very much following on from Ithaca. And Ithaca was a Greek myth retelling that I liked. I don't know if I'm 100% sold on it, but I am really interested in carrying on with the story and seeing where Claire North takes it. On the island of Ithaca, Queen Penelope maintains a delicate balance of power. Many years ago, her husband Odysseus sailed to war with Troy and never returned. In his absence, Penelope uses all her cunning to keep the peace. But this is shattered with the arrival of Orestes, king of Mycenae. Orestes, son of Agamemnon, is mad. Racked with guilt for putting his own mother to death, he grows ever more unhinged. But a king cannot be seen to be weak. To keep him safe from the ambitious men of Mycenae, his sister Electra brings him to Ithaca to recover under the protection of Penelope. But no sooner has Orestes arrived than his uncle Menelaus, the blood-soaked king of Sparta, comes looking for him. Menelaus hungers for Orestes' throne, and if he can seize it, no one will be safe from his violent whims. Caught between Sparta and Mycenae, Penelope must protect Ithaca from two mad kings on the edge of war. Her only allies are Electra, desperate to protect her brother, and Helen of Troy, Menelaus' wife. Each woman has a secret, and their secrets will shape the world. Honestly, this seems to be following very much a similar formula from the last book. Instead of Clytemnestra, you've got Helen. There's a big conflict that is kind of outside of Ithaca. Penelope is having to deal with it, whilst also having to deal with two women who are very similar to her, but also very different, and their contrasting personalities being a major theme of the book. In Ithaca, it was Clytemnestra and Electra, and now it's Helen and Electra. So, interesting, but yeah, I'm wondering if this is going to just feel very repetitive, because apparently all of my anticipated releases are either romance or Greek myth retelling. We also have Herc by Phoenicia Rogerson, the enthralling new queer feminist retelling of Greece's greatest hero Hercules, which has, by the way, a stunning cover. I think I want to read it just for the cover. This should be the story of Hercules, his 12 labours, his endless adventures, everyone's favourite hero, right? Well, it's not. This is the story of everyone else. Alcmene, Herc's mother. She has knives everywhere. Helis, Herc's first friend. They were more than friends. Megara, Herc's first wife. She'll tell you about their marriage. Eurystheus oversaw Herc's labours. He never asked for the job. His friends, his enemies, his wives, his children, his lovers, his rivals, his gods, his victims. It's time to hear their stories. Told with humour and heart, Herc gives voice to the silenced characters in this feminist, queer, and sometimes shocking retelling of the classic Hercules myths. Honestly, I put this on my list because I was like, oh, Greek myth retelling, cool. But now I've actually read the beloved of it, I'm like, oh, I really want to read that. It's either going to be amazing or it's going to be terrible, and I want to know which. A memoir coming out on the 14th of September is Oh Miriam, Stories from an Extraordinary Life by Miriam Margolyes. You'll know that last year I read This Much Is True, which was Miriam Margolyes' memoir, and apparently she just hadn't run out of stories, which I can very well believe. If you've ever watched any of her interviews, especially on the Graham Norton show, you'll know that Miriam Margolyes is very, very funny, occasionally a bit raunchy, and not shy about giving her opinions, and that's why we love her. My new book is called Oh Miriam, something that has been said to me a lot over the years, often in tones of strong disapproval. It contains lots more revelations and stories and discoveries, and I can't wait to share it with you all. From being escorted off the Today programme for saying what we were all thinking, to declaring her love to Vanessa Redgrave, from tales of the unexpected to Graham Norton's sofa, she is our most loved and most outspoken national treasure. Oh Miriam takes you both inside her head and her heart. This is definitely one that I'm going to want to get on audio because Miriam Margolyes is a fantastic audiobook narrator, and of course it's going to be in her own voice. It's always great to hear memoirs in the writer's own voice. We've been very much lacking some history non-fiction on this list, and so to remedy that I have Purewit, The Revolutionary Life of Margaret Cavendish by Francesca Peacock. Anybody who is a fan of Margaret I by Danielle Dutton, this is a non-fiction about her life. Margaret Cavendish, then Lucas, was born in 1623 to an aristocratic family. In 1644, as England descended into civil war, she joined the court of the formidable Queen Henrietta Maria at Oxford. With the rest of the court, she went into self-imposed exile in France. Her family's wealth and lands were forfeited by Parliament. It was in France that she met her much older partner William Cavendish, Marquess of Newcastle upon Tyne, a marriage that would remain at the heart of both her life and career. Cavendish was a passionate writer. She wrote extensively on gender, science, philosophy, and published under her own name at a time when women simply did not do so. Her greatest work was The Blazing World, published in 1666, a utopian proto-novel that is thought to be one of the earliest works of science fiction, yet hers is a legacy that divides opinion, and history has largely forgotten her. An undeserved fate for a brilliant, courageous proto-feminist. In Purewit, Francesca Peacock shines a spotlight on the fascinating, pioneering, and often complex and controversial life of Margaret Cavendish. To be honest with you, I did try and read Margaret I, and I just found myself not being able to get into it. I don't know how much of it is that I don't know massive about Margaret Cavendish. I know like bits and pieces about her life, but I've never read a biography like this. And sometimes that's what you need in able to kind of dig into historical fiction. So I am really, really keen to pick this one up. Also coming out on the 14th of September, the fourth in a series. This is Before We Say Goodbye by Toshikazu Kawaguchi, the fourth book in the Before the Coffee Gets Cold series. I actually haven't read the third book in this series, so you might be wondering, Charlotte, why is it that you're looking forward to this? I won't lie to you, it's because it's pink. The cover is pink. That's doing a lot of the work for me. But the famous Tokyo Cafe, where you can time travel, but only within very strict rules, and you must return before the coffee gets cold. I imagine this is just going to give a few more stories about the cafe and the people who came in, and I'm very much looking forward to hearing what people say about this, and potentially will pick this one up even though I haven't read the third one. Penultimate book on this list is Divine Might, Goddesses in Greek Myth by Natalie Haynes. You'll know I'm a very big Natalie Haynes fan, and this appears to be a follow-up to her other non-fiction Pandora's Jar, which I also really enjoyed, but this time instead of focusing on the ordinary human women of Greek mythology, we are looking at the goddesses. We meet Athene, who sprang fully formed from her father's head, goddess of war and wisdom, guardian of Athens. We run with Artemis, goddess of hunting and protector of young girls, apart from those she decides she wants as sacrifices. Here is Aphrodite, goddess of sex and desire. There is no deity more determined and able to make you miserable if you annoy her. Then there's the queen of all of the Olympian gods, Hera, Zeus's long-suffering wife, whose jealousy of his dalliances with mortals, nymphs and goddesses lead her to wreak elaborate, vicious revenge on those who have wronged her. We also meet Demeter, the goddess of agriculture and mother of the kidnapped Persephone. We sing the immortal song of the Muses, and we warm ourselves with Hestia, goddess of the hearth and sacrificial fire. The Furies carry flames of another kind, black fires of vengeance for those who incur their wrath. These goddesses are as mighty, revered and destructive as their male counterparts. Isn't it time we looked beyond the columns of a ruined temple to the awesome power within? And then lastly, coming out on the 28th of September, we have a history but with a bit of a twist. This is a history of the kings and queens of England, which is, you know, pretty typical fare for me, but this one is written by comedian David Mitchell, who you'll know especially from Would I Lie to You or his turn as William Shakespeare in Upstart Crow. I absolutely love David Mitchell. I find him hysterical. So when I found out that he was coming out with a history of the kings and queens, I was like, okay, sold. I'm very curious about this, and it is Unruly, a history of England's kings and queens. In Unruly, David Mitchell explores how early England's monarchs, while acting as feared rulers, firmly guiding their subjects' destinies, were in reality a bunch of lucky sods who were mostly as silly and weird in real life as they appear to us today in their portraits. Taking us right back to King Arthur, spoiler, he didn't exist, David tells the founding story of post-Roman England right up until the reign of Elizabeth I, as the monarchy began to lose its power. It's a tale of narcissists, inadequate self-control, excessive beheadings, middle management insurrection, uncivil wars, and at least one total Canute. Oh, I knew he wouldn't be able to resist that. As the English evolved from having their crops nicked with menaces by the thug with the largest armed gang, to bowing and paying taxes to a divinely anointed king. How this happened, who it happened to, and why the hell it matters in the 21st century Britain are all questions David answers with brilliance, wit, and the full erudition of a man who once studied history and is damned if he'll let it off the hook for the mess it's made of everything. So yeah, I think I'll have a great time with this. I also feel like this would serve really well as an introduction to history for people who are a little bit nervous about it, who may think that history is boring, which it is not. Maybe having a familiar face and a familiar sense of humour might bring it out for people. But there we go, those are all of the books that I'm very much looking forward to coming out between July and September. Do let me know if there are any books that you are looking forward to that I may have missed, and if you have any recommendations, I would love to hear from you. I hope you're having a fantastic day, and I look forward to talking to you again soon. Thanks. Bye.